Well, hello again. Welcome to 2D Web Solutions, Episode 6. Each episode, you ask questions and we find solutions. I'm Kerry Carron, founder of Ultimate Solution, LLC.
I'm Arelthia Phillips, founder of Pintop Solutions, LLC. Each episode, we answer up to 5 different web design and development business-related questions from our visitors. When you're looking for solutions, just visit our website, 2dwebsolutions.com, anytime and submit your question.
So let's get to it. Today's topic is building business boundaries. So one of the things we talked about last episode, Arelthia, was finding ideal clients. And one of the ways we ensure that we're working with the ideal clientele is by using questionnaires that are designed to pick up the clients that we want to work with. In other words, we're using the questionnaire as boundaries that are set and only ideal clients will choose to complete those questionnaires. So what is in your pre-qualification questionnaire?
So in my pre-qualification questionnaire, I start out very basic in that first questionnaire, just really asking questions about their budget, the service that they think that they need, and what the problem is, so that I can try to get an idea of if they really need my assistance or not. And I like to include that question about budget because it helps to stop the just the tire kickers, the people that, oh, I want a budget, I want a website, or I want you to create this custom plugin for me for $100. And so that just, once they see that's not even an option in the budget category. If you have less than a certain amount, there's not even an option for you. So that helps to set that boundary there. And then from there, I also do part of my pre-qualification questionnaire comes through email communication. So I want to get a clear picture of their current solution they're using, what the real problem is, and why they feel like they need to solve that problem right now. So what about you, Kerry? What is in your pre-qualification questionnaire?
Well, my questionnaire is designed for someone who really wants to build a new website or is looking to redesign their current website and kind of update it, mostly from the design aspect. But I do place an emphasis on ensuring that the clients get their website to be able to function the way that they want it to. And so I'm always looking for ways to help the client be able to use their website, not just to build a website and have it there. One of the major things I do go over in my questionnaire right off the bat is also a budget, and I too start at a particular rate. So if you go there and you find that your budget is less than that, then redesigning your website for less than that is not going to work for me because it's, first of all, not fair to me, and it's not going to get you what you need to be able to build something with that small of a budget. My questionnaire also contains as many details as possible that I can get the client thinking about what their real needs are. And then that way, if they find that their budget isn't enough to build an entire website, it may be enough to potentially do a portion of it or a particular project within their website. So I have it broken down that way. I start my questionnaire also with the recommendation of scheduling a consultation, mostly because a lot of the clients that I deal with are new to building websites or new to having an online presence at all, and being able to discuss that with them in person and letting them know that it's not just build a website and they come, because there's a lot more to it. It's more involved than that, and in order to understand that, a lot of times a consultation is needed. So that's what's in it and pretty much why I have it set up that way.
Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about where how is your questionnaire located or presented. So, for example, my basic questionnaire is located on my website, pintopsolutions.com, and so That's a very basic questionnaire. That's just the first fence you have to jump over. Then, once I receive the request, I follow up with a detailed list of questions via email that I want answered. And again, the whole goal is to dig deep into getting their answers to my questions related to what their real problem is, why it's important to them now, and why they're coming to me to solve that problem. And I find it interesting, Carrie, that with your questionnaire, it's like your whole questionnaire is geared more towards someone that's new to the whole process.
Yes.
And for me, it's like the total opposite. My questionnaire is geared towards someone that's already involved in the process, but they have a part that's not working quite the way they want it to, or they want to make it better. So I'm interested in, how do you present your questionnaire to them? And like, do you have more than one?
Well, before I answer that, I have a question for you. I want to go back a little bit. You said that you have just a basic questionnaire and then you send additional questions in an email. Do you get a lot of clients that never respond to the questions in your email?
Um, Not really a lot. The ones that actually respond to the questions in my emails, those are the ones that actually become my clients.
Right.
And they're hard questions. They're difficult. They really tell me whether or not you know what you know about your business and you're serious about your business, or you're just trying to start out, or you're just trying to start the next big Facebook. So those are the kind of questions that a lot of times when you're first starting out, you don't even know that they're important questions.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why my basic questionnaire on my website is conditional. Because when you start answering certain questions, I want to take you in another direction. Because I found that when I present them with all the questions at one time,
Yeah.
they just don't know what to do with all that.
Right,
So,
and I use that, and my questionnaire is very long if you're looking at the entire thing, and it is designed to be long on purpose because even though I'm working with new people, I do want to get them thinking, and I want them to look at those questions and really think about what it is they're answering and take the time to fill it out and answer it. Because if they don't, and they don't think about all that stuff, then they're not going to have all of the information that I'm going to need in order to provide the best service for them anyway. So yeah, and that's all about, those, well, it's a boundary within how we're working and funneling in those ideal clients.
yeah.
Um, I find a lot of times I'll refer a person to the questionnaire and I'll never hear from them again. And that's okay, because if they don't take the time to do that, then I don't want to be chasing them. I don't want to babysit. I don't want to hold their hand through the whole thing unless they ask me to hold their hand through the whole thing. And then I know that ahead of time. I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah. Now, do you
So,
find that sometimes the people that your questions kind of scare away, they come back maybe 6 months later, and
mhm,
then they're ready, they have the answers to your questions? I see that a lot, where it's like,
yes.
okay, I sent them the questions and they just disappeared, but then they come back, okay, I have all the answers, I'm ready, and I'm ready to work. So it's kind of is yeah, it's kind of like just to get them thinking, like you said.
Yep, yep. And I do have more than one version of my questionnaire. The long one is posted publicly. The conditional one is typically the one that it's in a different location on an individual website. It's not even really attached to my primary website. It's kind of it's in its own location. So unless you know how to find it and get to it, you might stumble across it, and if you stumble across it, you get that long one. If you go and you're directed, basically what happens, I also have a basic questionnaire on my primary website that asks for more information. Then I would follow up with an email that would link to the other questionnaire that would be conditional upon what it is that they want and what type of website is it, and so on and so forth. And I warn them ahead of time in my email. It's going to be a long process. Take your time. I'm in no hurry for you to come back until you're ready and have all of the information that you want. And then, fill it out the best you can. I had one customer one time. He went over there and he basically filled out his name and his contact information, and the rest he just left blank. that gave me nothing, nothing at all to work with. So it's like, okay, I'll follow up, and I followed up with one thing, and it turned out he did end up being a client of mine, but it was a process to get him to really, he jumped through just enough hoops to keep me interested, but it also let me know what type of a client I was dealing with. So I was able to set up additional boundaries that I needed to protect myself from scope creep and all of the other things that come along with somebody who really, really needs one-on-one attention a lot. But it worked out for the best, and it taught me how to set those additional boundaries. And yeah, so the conditional and conditional, for those of you who might not be familiar with that term, conditional just means that when you ask, you only have one or two questions showing, and then based on the answers of the question, it will reveal more questions that are more specifically geared to how you answered the question prior. So that pretty much covers it for the questionnaires. Did you have anything else to add in reference to questionnaires?
Not in reference to the questionnaire, Carrie, but that brings up a good point. Especially, it was a great lead into our next question, which is related to terms and conditions, because
Mhm.
your terms and conditions are another boundary that our businesses requires. So, what do you think are the most important things to include in the terms and conditions?
Well, my cover all, my CYA is anything and everything you need to protect yourself and your business from potentially having legal action taken against you. It's better to, in my opinion, it's better to have more than you need, and then you can open the gate, for lack of a better term. You have your fence up and your boundary set, but if you want to open the gate and let the horses run, you can do that. You can back off a little bit. Um, so that's my initial thought on terms and conditions. How about you?
For me, I'm going to give my developer answer again. It really depends. It depends on the type of work, that I'm doing when it comes to terms and service, the terms and conditions. Because if but let me just cover the things that I feel like are important regardless of what I'm doing. I want to make sure my terms of service covers intellectual property. Whether or not once I create something for you, do you own it or can I use it again in something else? So I make sure that's covered in my terms of service. How can you use it for this and go sell it to someone else? It depends on what terms we come to with that. Or is it something that if I create it for you to use on one project or on one website? It depends on whatever is written under that intellectual property component of our terms of service. Communication. It's important for my clients to understand how I communicate with them, when I will communicate with them, when I will not communicate with them. And just so that we clearly understand, everybody in the relationship understands how the communication will work. So then also make sure in my terms of service that my terms and conditions, terms of service, I'm using those terms interchangeably, but pretty much I mean the same thing. Payment is an important thing. When do they have to pay? When is payment? When do they have to make the payments, and what payment methods are acceptable. Payment methods are kind of flexible. I do have my go-to payment methods, but if a client comes to me and says, like, do you take this, or can I pay you in this way? For the most part, if I'm not aware of it, I'll research it or whatever and be like, okay, yeah, sure, you can pay me like that. Expectations. I like to make sure that they understand where the work will be completed in the terms of service. It clearly covers. If I'm going to do the work on my servers, then it's covered in the terms of service. If the work will be done on their servers, it's covered in the terms of service. The terms of service, pretty much my default, says that all work is done on Pintop Solutions servers, and it'll be moved to their server once final payment is made.
Why do you do that? And I know what your answer is, but I want to discuss why would you want to work on your servers and not somebody else's?
I want to work on my servers to protect myself, and also not just to protect myself, but also I feel like if I'm in the development process, um, there are a lot of reasons. I'm just going to stick to the basic ones, but it lets me work faster because I'm familiar with the environment. It lets me set up the environment exactly the way it needs to be. Also, it protects my client as well, because if I'm developing on their server, then if and something goes wrong, then that's an issue for them that I don't want to cause. I don't want to move it to their server until it's completed and tested. Okay.
Right. Yep.
But and plus I want to get paid before I give away my work.
Exactly. Yep.
Everybody wants to get paid.
Yep.
So yeah, yeah.
All right. Let's see. Some of the things that I cover in my terms of service, I have an area that goes into detail about the design specifications and requirements, how the consultation works. I also discuss completion times or and payment methods, ways to get paid, expectations on scheduled payments if it's going to be split up into more than one. Um,
Now, can you clarify on completion your how you discuss completion times in your term of service, Carrie?
well, I always build in extra time, and that's to as a designer, and I don't know if this happens with development, but I would assume it does because I know there's some aspects of development that I do. Let's say I come across something and I get stuck. Well, when you get stuck and you're a creative, um, sometimes you just need time, and you just need time to think about it and stew on it. And so I build in extra time for those. In case I get stuck, 90% of the time you're not going to get stuck. But there's an element of research sometimes that you have to stop whatever you're doing and do additional research and find out what a conflict might be occurring, or whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. And if you're on a deadline and your deadline is only 3 days away, and you're running into this, you start to panic. And when you start to panic, you can't get anything accomplished. So it's easier for me to say the completion time is, 2 weeks from now, even though I know I might get it done in a day and a half. Now, if I do get it done in a day and a half, then great. I will let them know, hey, I got this done ahead of time, and here's your work. I do know other designers and developers who work just the opposite. They set their deadline 2 weeks out, and if they're done, they wait until that day that they said they were going to deliver, and they give it to the client on that day. I'm kind of, I tell them a not later than kind of day, and then I follow up them throughout the process. And if I find myself getting close to that 3-day mark and I still have something outstanding, I will ask them about extending it, and I will give them the reasons why. Here's what I'm running into. I'm still not sure of this. I need to go to I need to go to Aletha. I need to ask Aletha about this because she'll know the answer, and I need to schedule an appointment. So my completion times are, I do set them as a standard in my terms and conditions, but it's flexible as far as when things will actually occur. And again, I fall back on, I have that there for my protection in the first place. I can open that gate and change things. The client cannot. Now, that's not to say that if a client is having an issue and they bring it to me and say, hey, this happened and I would really like to get this done ahead of time, what can we do to make this happen a week earlier instead? If I can make that happen, then of course I'm going to. Or if it's flexible. As long as those lines of communication are open, it's flexible. But this terms and conditions is something I can always fall back on. And I'm rambling, and I'm sorry. So let's see what else is in my terms and conditions. I include the legal matters, the copyright kind of things. A lot of clients never realize that you can't just go to Google and download an image and it's yours to use. No, that's not how it works. There's copyright. And this is what happens with images, and we need to purchase images, and you need to maintain the licensing on them. Uh,
Speaking of legal, Carrie, do you also include the little legal section that says that, you know, basically when it comes down to it, I'm just going to summarize. It says something like, sometimes things don't work, I'm not legally responsible for if your website stops working.
um, I don't have that specifically in my terms and conditions. However, it is clearly stated in my terms and conditions that after I give it to you, after X amount of days, it's your responsibility. I'm done. I would be more than happy to go back and help you fix something that might break after the fact. However, that's not included and it's additional and it's completely separate entity. It's a new project, for lack of a better term. So did that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, cool. Let's see. I also talk about software and plugin and theme support and stuff like that. I find a lot of clients don't realize that what they need in their website in order to have it function the way that they want to oftentimes will incur additional ongoing costs. So I want them either to know that that's going to happen and they can purchase their own licensing. As a developer, I do oftentimes carry their license for them for a fee, and so they get their choice how they want to do that, and I lay that out in my terms and conditions. I ask them what type of hosting that they're going to be on. I even have in there the WordPress platform requirements, because believe it or not, people don't realize that their server has to have certain, WordPress requires certain things to be in place before it can work. And if they don't have that, I can't be held responsible for that. I'm like you, and I develop on my own servers. But when it comes time to move it to where it needs to go, they have to have that ready. I'm not responsible for what isn't possible, So I cover that. And then I also include some informational type of things for additional services that go above and beyond the development of their website for ongoing maintenance and so on, and my refund policy, or lack thereof, being there is no refund. The work is done, here it is, you can do with it what you want, but I still get paid, kind of thing.
Yeah, no refunds. Carrie, how do you provide your terms and conditions? How do your clients know about them?
I refer them to the link where I have it published publicly, and then I also include a link to it in my initial email once the deal is done, per se. If I have brought on a new client, typically after an initial consultation, I will follow up with an email, or it's anytime actually after I have a face-to-face or a verbal communication with somebody, be it in Skype or whatnot. I try to follow up with an email that says, hey, this is what we discussed, this is what your expectations of me are, and here's what I expect from you. And then I will also include a link to my terms and conditions there.
Yeah, I like to put it in my estimates. I have a simplified version of my terms and conditions, very straightforward, in my estimate.
That's a great way of doing it.
Yeah. Then it's also in my invoice. So before you pay me, you're gonna see them again. This is how I work. This is what I'm offering you. This is that way. It not only helps to deal with the expectations for them, but it helps to prevent that scope creep as well. Because my thing is, if you review the invoice or the estimate, you'll notice that item was not included. If you want to do that after this is completed, I'll be more than happy to.
That's a great idea. I don't include it on my invoice, but I think I'm going to. That's an awesome way to get it. I think I'm going to add that to my invoices.
It helps a lot.
Yeah.
So
tell me, Arelthia, how did you develop your terms and conditions? How did you know what to use and what to include?
Oh wow. I started out with these long terms and conditions that I'm pretty sure I copied from somewhere else. And then over time, I found that my customers, they were not reading them. And then when I looked at them, I'm like, oh no, I don't agree with this anymore, or something would
Mm-hmm.
happen. Let's say I'd have a situation that would happen, and okay, I'm like, okay, I need to change this part, or I need to put this part this way. And so my terms and conditions have changed over the years. And then with just a little bit of legal advice in there for some of the things that I do, which was part of the reasons why I went with my LLC. Some of my terms and conditions changed in that way as well, just to help protect myself throughout over the long term. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. I came across a number of people's terms and conditions that I liked, and they had given authorization for me to copy them, but tweak them. I would never recommend copying verbatim because obviously you have to at least change the name of the company. But yeah, I people often ask me if they can use mine, and my terms and conditions, they are what work for me, and I always tell them, sure, you can use them, just tweak them to meet your own need. And I'm constantly going back and rereading mine and tweaking them and updating them and adapting them to fit the boundary that I need to have work for my business. It's just a great rule of thumb to keep those things current and keep them
And I think
evolving.
The latest thing that I think I've changed on my terms and conditions has to do with like the amount of time I give my customers after I complete a project to request changes and
Mm-hmm.
fixes or anything. And that was not necessarily to protect me. It was because of a need that I saw from my customers. They needed more time to actually use the product to make sure that it worked as expected for them. And so that was part of I want my customers to be happy. I sit here and I joke and everything about, yeah, I want to get paid and I want to protect me, but ultimately I do it so that the solution will work for my customers. And so
Right.
I think that that's one of the big things also that you need to consider when you do your terms of service is that it works for you, it works for your customers, and that, it just keeps everybody happy. Because when we understand each other, when we communicate with each other, we're happy. Um,
Yeah.
it's when there's a breakdown in communication or something that's not clear or your actions are against what you say you're going to do, that's when you have unhappy customers. So the big thing is make sure your customers know where it's located and they understand what it says.
Yeah. Yep, I totally agree with, again, it's a starting point, and it's that boundary. It's setting that boundary so that you know where to stop, and it's to stop you as well as your client from going somewhere that you really don't want to be, and to keep you working with the people that you want to keep working with.
Yeah. And I just want to make sure we give our disclaimer. Make sure you consult with a professional about your terms of service. We cannot stress that enough, that it
Yeah.
is extremely important that you consult a professional.
Yep. Did we want to? I do want to mention Rachel Rogers. I think it was. Was that her
Yeah.
name? Yeah.
Yes, the Rogers Group. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Rachel Rogers again, and we'll have the link posted when we write the article for her information. And she is in fact a lawyer,
Yes.
and offers some awesome legal tips and advice for people who are working specifically online. Great product, great trainings over there. And she's got some really good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Really great stuff. I
So
think
should we do today's tip?
the tweet tip for today is provide clear expectations with boundaries.
All right, so before we go, we do want to hear from you. We encourage you to leave us your comments on our website located at 2dwebsolutions.com so that we can continue this conversation over there in our replies.
Remember, when you ask questions, we find solutions. So while you're over leaving comments on our website, feel free to submit any web design development questions that you have so we can address them in a future episode.
And if you're really ready to take action toward building yourself a successful design and development business, be sure to subscribe. Yes, to subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcasts, which are currently available through iTunes, Android, RSS, email, and Stitcher.
And be looking out for our iOS app coming soon.
Oh, fantastic. That's
Yes,
great news.
yes. And so, guys, we'll see you on the next 2D Aspects of Web Design and Development episode.
So long, guys.
Good night. Goodbye.